So recently I was asked just about why Darth Vader doesn't have as much screen time throughout his entirety of being in Star Wars. If you think about it across games, across movies, it's honestly probably just barely over an hour. But what if I were to tell you that this was actually done on purpose? In order to keep Vader as more of a legend and to have his stature be a little bit more powerful and have such an imposing presence in a galaxy, they gave him a little bit of screen time, and that was all by design by George Lucas. And for the most part, ever since Disney took over, they actually have had and adhered to this rule that George Lucas essentially had, this unspoken rule that George Lucas has, because he's only gained about 40 minutes of screen time in all the shows and movies that they put out since then. So across everything, Vader has about just over an hour of screen time. And the reason why I say this is because George Lucas wanted it this way. This is how Disney and George Lucas have approached this whole situation with Vader, and all the writers have done as well. But this all goes back to a question I was asked recently, and that is if we need a Vader TV show or a Vader movie. So the reason why I bring this up is because this would actually increase the screen time, as we all know, of Vader substantially. And the whole point around Vader is to have him have a little bit of screen time, because it increases his mysticism. It increases that, whenever he's on screen, you sit and actually watch because Vader is on screen. This is one of the biggest tricks that Star Wars has been doing for years. And my immediate opinions towards it is I'm kind of on a fence, to be honest. I feel like we could use a Vader TV show in a certain circumstance. Yes, I do. I believe it would be extremely cool if we got to see a Vader origin story, maybe that first 2 years of him actually being part of the Empire. Because if you guys remember, for a while, that nobody actually knew that Vader was a thing, not even the clones. So when Vader ran into a group of clones, the group of clones thought he was a Jedi, and he absolutely slaughtered all of them. Every single last clone was destroyed, and he didn't even have a lightsaber at the time. I believe if we got something like that, or we got to see something like that in live action format with Hayden Christensen obviously as Darth Vader, I think that'd be extremely cool to see. Or maybe even just like a small Tales of the Jedi story where Obi-Wan's Force Ghost was talking to Vader aboard his ship. I believe stuff like this would be really cool to see, but at the same time, under the same breath, I'm perfectly fine if we don't get to see any of that kind of stuff, because as I said, it was all part of George Lucas's plan to have built this mysticism around Vader and to really have him seem as this imposing figure amongst the galaxy and across the entire galaxy, to have him just be this just guy who doesn't appear all the time, but when you just even hear the mention of his name, you're like, oh crap. We know this is Vader. Because if we did get something like an origin story, stuff like that, it would humanize him way more. I mean, we already know he is a human at the end of the day, but it would humanize him even more to the fact where if you see him later on, you don't get that imposing figure anymore. So it kind of destroys that mysticism. But are we willing to sacrifice mysticism for an actual good story? I mean, honestly, underneath Disney, I doubt it'll be a good story, but if they get the right people in charge and they get the right actors, I think it can be something good. So for me personally, I'm leaning more towards the middle section. I'd probably say about 60% towards no and 40% towards yes. Because 40%, yeah, I would love to see a Vader origin story. I'd love to see all that stuff colorized in live action. But to do that at the cost of what George Lucas's vision and what the vision is overall for Darth Vader, I don't think the cost or I don't think the pros outweigh the cons in that situation. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do you guys think that we need a Vader origin film, or do you guys think that we should just keep Vader the way he is, appearing every so often and keeping that mysticism and that stature that he has over the galaxy? Don't forget to like and subscribe. May the Force be with you. And as always, have a great rest of your day.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.